Not particularly, no. Obviously she has pressures that she's taken on and things, but we spend a lot of time together. We still do a lot together as a family, and I think that's sort of the heart for all of us, is having a really close family that...
I felt publicly bullied a little bit when I read things that aren't true. Pippa Middleton rarely speaks, and when she does, it's never for attention. However, at 41, something has changed. For years, she kept her life private, including her seemingly perfect marriage to James Matthews, which she carefully protected. There have been no scandals, no statements, just subtle appearances and polite silence. Now that silence has been broken. Although she never felt the need to share her truth with the world, this time, she has chosen to do so. What she reveals is not dramatic or tabloidy. Instead, it is a testament to her courage, personal, and perhaps long overdue. Let's delve into it all: the love, the loss, the silence, and the reasons why Pippa Middleton is finally stepping forward. The love she never saw coming. The story does not begin in a royal hall or on a red carpet. It starts in St. Barts. Pippa first met James Matthews at Eden Rock Hotel, a quiet luxury resort owned by his family. She was there with friends and at the time was dating Alex Loudon, a former cricket star who had the poise, charm, and stability that the public adored. However, something about James stood out to her. Unlike others, he didn't try to insert himself into their group. He wasn't showy or competitive. Instead, he was calm and quietly present. A man who didn't need attention to make an impression. When Pippa returned to London, she felt that her dynamic with Alex had shifted. Friends noticed the change. The warmth between them had chilled. It was less visible to the public, but unmistakable to those closest to her. Eventually, they parted ways peacefully, with no drama and no headlines. James remained in the background, not chasing her, but simply waiting. Soon after, Pippa began a new relationship with Nico Jackson, a hedge fund manager who was stylish, innovative, and very much in the public eye. The press adored them. They were glamorous, polished, and ready for the paparazzi. However, over time, James's patience began to mean more to Pippa than Nico's perfection. In 2015, Pippa and Nico broke up, and James re-entered her life. This time not from behind the scenes, but as a significant part of her story. Their relationship was not about the spotlight, but about genuine connection. Two people who didn't feel the need to perform were finally giving their connection a chance. Engagement to fairy tale wedding. In July 2016, during a serene trip to the Lake District, James proposed to Pippa with a stunning diamond ring, and she said yes. The news spread quickly, and surprisingly, nearly everyone celebrated the engagement. Pippa was 33, while James was 41, sophisticated, wealthy, and grounded. The media dubbed the upcoming event a society wedding, describing it as an evening straight out of a novel, filled with class, elegance, and prestige. On May 20th, 2017, surrounded by royals, world-famous guests, and her closest family, Pippa Middleton married James Matthews at St. Mark's Church in Berkshire. Prince William, Kate, and Harry were in attendance, while Prince George and Princess Charlotte had memorable roles in the ceremony. It was a personal and poised occasion that generated little tabloid buzz, but was filled with warmth and joy. However, beneath the fairy tale headlines, something more significant occurred. Pippa took ownership of her own story. She was no longer just Kate Middleton's sister, or the girl from that wedding photo. She had transformed into a woman in love, empowered and in control, living life on her terms. A family life built in silence. After their wedding, the couple settled into a $17 million mansion on one of Chelsea's most exclusive streets, complete with a private gym, a cinema, and space for their staff. Rather than flaunting their wealth, they chose to lead a quiet domestic life. In October 2018, Pippa gave birth to their first son, Arthur. Unlike many public figures, she did not inundate magazines with photos of her baby. Instead, she participated in a few brief fitness interviews before retreating from the public eye. In 2021 and 2022, they welcomed 2 more children, maintaining their privacy around them. Pippa, a fitness enthusiast, went for jogs around the city, attended charity events discreetly, collaborated with the British Heart Foundation, and took part in swim run contests and published articles rather than giving interviews. This was the side of the Middletons that was rarely seen, driven, private, and focused on making an impact rather than seeking attention. Their bond appeared to be based on a shared love for health, sports, and philanthropy, as well as a mutual desire to escape the constant spotlight that seemed to follow her. However, over time, even that love began to change. When the fairy tale fades, what began as a serene love built on balance soon faced tension that neither Pippa nor James could endure. Pippa came from a world of press, public smiles, and controlled appearances, while James was someone who despised the spotlight but tolerated it for her. At first, this difference created harmony. She brought light, and he brought quiet. However, over time, that difference turned into distance. The constant public scrutiny and the pressure to maintain a perfect image began to take a toll on their relationship. James gradually stopped showing up. It wasn't dramatic, just slow. There were no appearances at family events, no photos at weddings, and no hand-in-hand entrances at fundraisers. Pippa continued to smile, but even the public noticed that something had changed. Her fashion became muted. Bright florals were replaced with black, navy, and browns. Her words grew sparse. There were no mentions of him, no social media posts, no stories, nothing. Friends remarked that her spark had dimmed. Her appearance remained polished, but her presence seemed to drift elsewhere. In silence, they were drifting apart, and the signs of their relationship's deterioration were becoming more and more evident. Private tension spills into public eyes. As time went on, the tension between Pippa and the Matthews family grew noticeably. Pippa stopped attending family functions, and her relationship with Vogue Williams, Spencer Matthews' wife, turned icy. A comment made during a podcast, seemingly about Meghan Markle, was widely interpreted as a subtle jab at Pippa. Though indirect, it was cutting enough to be felt. Before long, Pippa completely withdrew from attending events associated with the Matthews family. The media took notice. Comments like, "She's just here to support the cause," and "no comment for now," began to replace their previously warm exchanges. James, on the other hand, had vanished from public view. His silence, which once seemed like a mark of quiet strength, now came across as emotional detachment. Pippa remained tight-lipped about the situation. She didn't need to say anything. Those who truly observed the dynamics could see that the relationship was coming apart at the seams. Financial shadows and family strains. As her marriage quietly unraveled, troubles mounted elsewhere. In 2023, Party Pieces, the Middleton family business, filed for bankruptcy, owing over $2.6 million to suppliers. Although it wasn't directly Pippa's fault, the headlines still linked her name to the situation. Meanwhile, James became the center of national news when he blocked public paths on his family's quiet estate in Berkshire, paths that locals had used for years. The backlash was swift, and the community was heartbroken. To add to the turmoil, James's name surfaced in court investigations related to a hedge fund scandal. While he was never accused of wrongdoing, Eden Rock Capital had invested $51 million in a fund that was being investigated for fraud. At that point, his silence began to appear less like discretion and more like an attempt to hide. Marriage without a funeral. There was no official announcement, no press release, and no leaks. However, Pippa and James are no longer together. Their last appearances together felt forced, marked by stiff body language and polite smiles instead of genuine affection. The spark they once shared has faded into a professional relationship. They no longer share anniversary tributes, tag each other, or offer any social signals of closeness. Remarkably, she has said nothing about it. This aligns with how their relationship ended quietly, without a dramatic fallout. It was simply a slow fade. The graceful exit. Pippa's story is compelling. Despite facing whispers, betrayal, public pressure, and significant loss, she chose peace over image and damage control. She began to focus more intently on her charitable efforts, participating in programs that supported deaf children and raising money for suicide prevention. She donated her time, her influence, and more, all without broadcasting it online. When asked why she withdrew from the spotlight, she said, "I think people say things online they'd never say to your face, but they think that makes it okay." Pippa continues to show up for her children, her causes, and her quiet life. She didn't write a memoir or divulge her struggles in a TV tell-all. She moved on. In many ways, Pippa Middleton's journey epitomizes modern womanhood. She was thrust onto the world stage overnight, sought stability and love, and managed to hold everything together while dealing with public scrutiny. She didn't scream or plead for sympathy. She allowed her silence to speak volumes. The ring she wore in St. Barts symbolized not just love but also belief. However, faith can wane over time. When it does, the bravest response might not be to hold on tighter, but to let go quietly. Pippa never allowed her pain to define her. She used it to refine her character. What do you think? Can true love withstand the pressures of public life? Let's discuss this in the comments.